Getting fired from a job is not simply about losing a paycheck, it is about losing a piece of yourself that you had grown used to carrying every single day. For many people, their careers are not just what they do, they become who they are. When you wake up every morning, get dressed, commute, clock in, interact with coworkers, and then clock out, the rhythm of your life falls into a certain order. It gives you structure, routine, and identity. Suddenly being fired disrupts all of that at once, like someone pulling the rug out from under you, leaving you stumbling and unsure of where to stand. The first emotion is often shock. You sit across from your manager or HR representative, listening to words that don't quite feel real. We have to let you go. The company is moving in a different direction. Your role has been eliminated. These sentences land like heavy blows, but your brain refuses to absorb them immediately. You nod politely, maybe even force a smile, because part of you is still processing what is happening. It feels surreal, as if you've stepped outside of your body and are watching yourself go through the motions. The walk out of the office, carrying your things in a box or bag, is a walk many people never forget. Coworkers glance at you, some with pity, some with curiosity, others avoiding eye contact altogether. You feel exposed, like the entire world can see your failure. Even if people reassure you that being fired is not always about performance, that sometimes it's budget cuts, restructuring, or management change, it doesn't stop the internal voice that whispers, "What did I do wrong? Am I not good enough?" The mind instantly begins to replay everything: that project you didn't finish on time, the meeting where you misspoke, the email you sent with a mistake. Even if those things were small, in hindsight, they become magnified, as though they were the very reasons for your downfall. The hardest part is often going home afterward. You step into your personal space, and suddenly, silence surrounds you. No emails pinging, no meetings on your calendar, no deadlines to chase, just silence. For some, this silence feels like freedom at first. No boss breathing down your neck, no office politics, but very quickly, it turns heavy. You realize that the silence is not peace, it is emptiness. The thought creeps in, what do I do now? Being fired triggers a complex mix of emotions: embarrassment, anger, sadness, fear, and sometimes even relief. Embarrassment comes first because society conditions us to tie our worth to our jobs. When you lose yours, you imagine the judgment of others. What will my family think? What will my friends say? How will I explain this on my resume? Anger often follows anger. At your boss, at the company, at the unfairness of life. You tell yourself, I gave them my time, my effort, my energy, and this is how they repay me. Then comes sadness, not just because of the loss of income, but because of the loss of belonging. For many people, coworkers become a second family, and losing that connection stings. Finally, fear begins to set in. Fear about paying rent, fear about bills piling up, fear about whether you will ever find another job again. Some people also feel a strange sense of relief when fired, especially if the job was draining, toxic, or unfulfilling. That relief is real, but it doesn't always outweigh the anxiety about the future. In fact, the relief can make you feel guilty, like you should not be glad about something so serious. But the truth is, many jobs quietly burn people out, and being fired, while painful, can sometimes be the only way to break free from a situation you would not have left on your own. What makes being fired particularly difficult is the way it affects identity. From a young age, society trains us to answer the question, what do you do with our profession? I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher, I work in finance. These labels become part of our self-definition. So when someone is fired, they are not only stripped of their income, but also of the easy way they used to explain themselves to the world. Suddenly, you are not sure what to say. You hesitate when asked about your work because you feel ashamed, as if you no longer belong anywhere. But beneath all the emotions, one truth remains: getting fired is not the end of the story. It is, in fact, the beginning of another chapter, though in the moment, it feels like the final page has closed. The path ahead will be full of obstacles, self-doubt, and challenges, but also possibilities for reinvention, growth, and rediscovery. Being fired has layers. The first layer is shock, the second is anger, the third is shame. And somewhere, buried deep beneath, is a sense of opportunity, but that one doesn't show itself until you dig through the rubble. Shock is immediate. It numbs you. Anger follows closely because you need someone to blame, whether it's your boss, the company, the economy, or yourself. Shame creeps in slowly, because in a society that worships productivity and financial success, losing your job feels like failing at being an adult. It's not just that you lost income, it's that you imagine others looking at you differently. Nows, if you are less competent, less capable, less worthy. The shame often lasts the longest because it lingers in silence. It is there when friends ask, "How's work going?" and you hesitate before admitting you don't have a job. It's there when bills arrive in the mail, and you realize you don't know how you'll pay them. It's there when you scroll LinkedIn and see everyone else celebrating promotions, new offers, and career achievements, while your update would read something like, "Open to work." The financial stress of being fired is often the loudest alarm in the brain. If you were living paycheck to paycheck, panic sets in immediately. Rent or mortgage doesn't wait. Credit card companies don't pause their interest rates. Groceries don't magically appear in the fridge. Suddenly, survival feels precarious. You start calculating how long your savings, if you had any, will last. Weeks, months. You wonder if unemployment will cover enough to get by. You begin to cut corners in daily life, canceling subscriptions, skipping outings, rationing gas. For those with families, the stress multiplies because the job wasn't just supporting you, it was supporting people who depend on you. The fear of letting down a spouse, children, or even aging parents can weigh heavier than the loss itself. But beyond the money is the question of identity. For many people, their job is who they are. Ask someone at a party, "What do you do?" and they will answer with their profession. "I'm a teacher, I'm an engineer, I work in finance." Rarely do people say, "I'm a father," or "I'm a creative soul," or "I'm someone who loves to write." Instead, they lead with their occupation, as if that single label contains the fullness of their existence. When you are fired, that label is stripped away. Suddenly, when people ask what you do, you stumble. You might say, "I used to work at," or "right now I'm between jobs." The truth is, you no longer have a neat identity to present, and that loss can feel disorienting, even humiliating. It makes you question your worth, not just as a worker, but as a human being. Getting fired is also an assault on confidence. Even if you know rationally that companies downsize, that industries collapse, that sometimes it's about factors beyond your control, emotionally you take it personally. Every rejection email that follows feels like confirmation that you are not good enough. You may start doubting skills you once felt proud of. You may rewrite your resume 10 times, wondering if it hides your weaknesses or exposes them. You may second-guess yourself in interviews, stumbling over answers because deep down you believe they are looking for a flaw. Confidence is hard to build and easy to shatter, and being fired often shatters it completely. There's also the social isolation. When you are employed, even if you don't love your job, you are part of a social ecosystem. You interact with coworkers, clients, managers. You exchange jokes, frustrations, complaints. You are part of conversations. When you are fired, that network often disappears overnight. Some coworkers may reach out with kind words, but many drift away, busy with their own workloads. You realize that workplace friendships were often tied to the job itself, not built to last beyond it. Loneliness creeps in, and days at home begin to feel heavier. You try to distract yourself, but the silence of being cut off from the daily rhythm of human interaction takes its toll. Humans are social creatures, and losing that environment can feel like being exiled. For many, the worst part of being fired is not knowing what comes next. The uncertainty eats at you. Will you find another job soon? Will you have to settle for something lower paying, less satisfying, further from your dreams? Will you even get hired at all? The fear of the unknown can be paralyzing, leading to procrastination, avoidance, or even depression. Some people retreat inward, avoiding friends, family, and responsibilities. Others spiral into unhealthy habits, drinking too much, staying up too late, numbing themselves with entertainment or substances, just to avoid facing reality. And yet, hidden beneath the rubble of being fired, there is something else. Possibility. It doesn't show up right away, and sometimes it takes months or even years to see it. But losing a job can also strip away illusions and force a person to confront who they are outside of their role. Some discover passions they never pursued because they were too busy working. Some go back to school, switch industries, start businesses, or create art. The disruption, painful as it is, can be the very thing that pushes people into growth. But that silver lining doesn't erase the storm you walk through to get there. It is not inspirational quotes that carry you. It is resilience, grit, and the slow rebuilding of self-belief.